I'll go share it on Facebook as soon as I see it come through.
Okay, cool. And all right, brother, we are live on Facebook. Here we go. How you doing, Tellman?
I'm doing awesome. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing well, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. As you guys know, Tellman comes to us from Overcome Everything.
That's right.
And you've been doing this for, gosh, I mean, I remember watching you when you had the crazy hair back in the day. Now you got no hair, kind of transition, right?
That's right. That's right. I like hair that doesn't take a lot of work to take care of. So that means it's either crazy or non-existent.
Yeah. And I see you're wearing your Milton Erickson shirt today.
That's right. That's
I thought about wearing my purple shirt.
Right. Kicking it Milton Erickson style, going way back.
So you guys Tellman is a hypnotist, so you're all going to be hypnotized today while you're on here. So pay attention. Don't be watching this driving any heavy equipment or driving a car or doing anything dangerous, because you can't. You've been warned. That's all I have to say.
That's right.
Tellman's helped a lot of people overcome all kinds of crazy stuff, from like smoking stuff that's out there to helping people with their money mindset to helping people achieve like huge amounts of list growing abilities, right? As far as marketing considerations, Tellman is kind of a unique situation where he got almost like adopted and kind of brought under the wing of a lot of the top internet marketers that are out there, and he learned a lot from them, and he grew his practice and business to where he has a way to do hypnosis sessions over the internet people have taken. And roughly, I know you don't have an exact number, Tellman, but if you had to take a guess on how many people have gone through your program and like through the internet and stuff like that, I know it's thousands. I just ballpark number. What do you think?
Well, I mean, the reality is that I've been hypnotizing people for 17 years. And I've done, over the years, with all my different programs, I've easily hypnotized 250,000 people. Between free and paid programs. People. So,
wow,
that I can fairly easily track, right? Whether we're talking about my videos on YouTube or my free webinars or the millions and millions and millions of dollars of product sales that I've had, or I mean, a lot of people. I mean, the internet's awesome. I'm a big fan.
I am too. I mean, I remember going through some of your trainings back in the day, seeing this guy. I'm like, what is this? And it was just like interesting. And I was just like really like hypnotized, what can I say, with the hair. I'm like staring at the hair, and before I know it, I'm like, and I'm not talking about, a lot of times people think hypnotism, they think, oh, it's like people doing silly stuff on stage and all that kind of stuff. Right. But this is a real deeper inner journey side of things. How did you get started with doing this in the first place, Tom?
Whoa, we're going to go straight for it, huh? All right. Let me give you a good one, because I don't know that I've told you this story before, Daryl. So
I haven't heard it, man. That's what everybody wants to know.
So, little bit of backstory, right? So I grew up in rural New Hampshire. I went to a public school called Mascoma High School, Enfield Elementary, and then in Mascoma High School I went to Indian River Middle School. And in order to get 100 kids squeezed into a class, not in a classroom, but my graduating class. And when I was a kid, I was born with a fairly rare leg deformity called femoral antiversion. And so my femurs, which is the bone that goes in between your hip and your knee, were both spun in, and my feet both pointed in at 45-degree angles. Okay. And so I literally couldn't really walk without tripping over myself and my knees knocking together. And, that wasn't just like a puberty stage. That was like my entire childhood. It kind of sucked. And, I was terrible socially. I had ADD, and I just am kind of a natural introvert. From a very young age, I always looked at the world a little bit differently than most people around me, which meant I got to spend a lot of time alone, right? And so I didn't get along with most kids. I had ADD, so I didn't do very well in school. I was an A's and D's kind of a student. If I was interested, it's all I could think about. But if I wasn't interested, I couldn't bring myself to do my homework or get anything done on time. It would just in one ear, out the other, as they say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I always struggled academically. I knew I was smart, knew I was sharp. I was just friends with, the straight A kids. I could always keep up with them in an intellectual debate, but I couldn't spell, And so when I was in ninth grade, at the beginning of my ninth grade year, this guy that I rode the bus with, Matt Daigle, he was a born runner. He was a naturally gifted super runner, and he was running in high school races when he was in junior high, and he was winning. He was just crushing it. And so I rode the bus with him, and he lived a couple miles down the street from me. And he was put in charge of, as was the rest of the team, recruiting new runners, because cross-country running, running is the most popular sport in America now. But I'll tell you what, when I was in high school in the 90s, it was probably the least popular sport, certainly for high school students. It was not something that kids wanted to do. You only ran if you basically sucked at sports, right? And I sucked at sports. Mm-hmm. And so, I literally couldn't catch a ball until I was 23. My hand-eye coordination was so bad. And so I started running when I was essentially about 13, right? 13, 14 years old, right in my ninth grade year. And Matt convinced me to go and give it a shot because I had nothing else to do. I wasn't involved in any other social groups. I wasn't involved in any other things. And he's like, dude, why don't you just give it a shot? You could probably use getting in shape. It'd probably be better than, just playing video games for the next 4 years. And we really need people bad, and you're tall and skinny. So come on. And so I did. And I went out, and I remember that first day of practice because I was a very anxious little kid. I was very angry. My parents got divorced when I was 8. And so like many people, I came from a broken home. And I didn't get along with either one of my parents. I didn't have a strong bond as a child with either one of my parents. And so I was just kind of doing my own thing, and I was mad at the world, very angst-ridden. And like a lot of teenagers are, right? And what happened was I went out to practice that first day, and I was having a bad day. And I went out, and and we had to warm up around the field. And what we did a 1.5 mile warm up. So that meant running around the field 3 times. And I remember after the first 2 times, I was winded, I was hurting. When you're out of shape and you run and you can kind of taste the iron in the back of your mouth, and you can kind of feel it in your lungs burning, and then something switched, right? What happened was, while I was running, all of a sudden, for the first time in my life, the endorphins kicked in, and they kicked in at just the right time and just the right way, where all of a sudden the stress went away. It just was lifted. And my view of the world began to shift. It began to change on the spot. And I had never experienced this before. And I don't know whether it was divine intervention or what, but I immediately became obsessed with running. And I was the slowest kid on the team. My knees were still knocking together half the time while I was running. I was a mess. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I had control. I felt like I was able to control my own environment. Because when you're running, guess what? It's just you, right? Because it's a team sport that doesn't really involve a team, right? Because at the end of the day, everybody's really doing their own thing. And of course, you can be a great leader and you can motivate your team. And I ended up becoming team captain and everything else. But it's a very personal experience. And what happened was, over the course of that first year running, my first couple of weeks, I went in for my annual visit at Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center in Hanover, New Hampshire. And they scanned my legs. They did x-rays of my legs to see what was going on. Because most people with femoral antiversion, what happens is as they get older and the rest of their body develops, the bones are still fairly malleable. They're fairly flexible, and the symptoms essentially go away. So your legs start looking mostly normal again, even though all the angles are in your skeleton are different and stuff. Most of the obvious weirdness of it dissipates as people grow, and for me it didn't. And so, but I had missed the last 3 years of appointments because, you know, my parents were in a giant custody battle and, you know, it was insane. So what ended up happening was pretty interesting because the doctors said, look, dude, you're going to need to do one of two things. Either you're going to have to live the rest of your life with your feet pointing in like this because your bones are starting to harden up now that you're entering your, you know, your puberty years. Your bones are becoming more rigid. Or we're going to need to put flat brakes in both of your femurs. We're going to need to break both of your legs, spin your feet around forward, and put 6 to 8 pins in each leg.
You're fired up about that.
Oh, stoked. Wicked stoked, right? And
you're like, is there a third option?
And then they're like, and we're going to have to put you in full casts for 6 to 8 months, and then another 6 to 8 months of braces to let everything heal.
Wow.
And you'll never run again. And this is 2 weeks after I discovered running. You know, I was like, man, this sucks. This is terrible. And I had found a passion, and it was being taken away from me. And I was
like team captain and everything. I mean, like.
Well, at that point, I certainly wasn't captain. I was ninth grade. I was the slowest guy on the team, right?
But it was the first time in your life you're passionate about doing something, and
yeah, I got lit up about
shell, you know, finding
something
yourself.
positive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So what happened was we scheduled in the appointment for the week after my birthday. My birthday's in January, and again, I live in New England, so that's wintry months, right? I figured it best to do the operation where I was going to be laid up in the cold, freezing weather instead of, you know, being able to go outside or whatever. And I figured it best. So what ended up happening was I went back to practice the next day, and I doubled down. And over the next few weeks, I lived about 7 miles away from the school. And over the next few weeks, what ended up happening was I just ramped up my training to as much as my body could handle. And first I started running to school in the morning, and then I would take the bus home after, or get picked up after practice. So I'd run to school in the morning, go through school, go to practice, get picked up, you know, go home. But then I ended up running to school, going to practice, and running another 7 miles home. And I was just going full force because it was my last 6 months of my life that I was going to be able to run for the rest of my life. And what ended up happening was near the end of that first season, I made enormous progress, but I was still one of the slower guys on the team. Like, I was still not top 7, you know, and that's out of like a 10-person team or whatever. And my coach, who saved my life, okay, my coach was also my French teacher. I was getting D's in French. I should have got F's in French, but he passed me. Bill Bellion, who's now the fire chief. And I'll tell you what, that guy, he believed in me when nobody else did. And near the end of the season, when I was in high school, everybody called me Telly, you know, which is kind of short for Tellman. And he's like, Telly, come here, you know, because he had a big vein pulsating in his forehead. He'd get mad all the time, give you the hairy eyeball. And come here. And he pulls me out. I thought I was getting yelled at for doing something stupid or being a goofball or whatever. And he's like, you've been looking at your feet, you know, you've been looking at your legs. And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? And he's like, I think they're straightening out. I started paying attention, and sure enough, all that crazy training that I was doing with that intense level of focus was building the muscles in my legs to be so ridiculously strong that they literally bent my bones back around forward.
Wow.
And that was my first experience of mind over matter. Okay, that was my first experience of my mind can directly influence my reality. Not indirectly, not subtly, you know, not, well, if you look at it this way, it's not quite so bad. I mean direct impact on the physical life. And that was the first time I realized how much power we all have. And I didn't know about hypnosis then. I didn't know about NLP or binaural beats or astral projection or hemispheric synchronization or any of the other crazy stuff. I certainly didn't know anything about marketing. But what I learned was the power of the human mind and of focus. And what ended up happening is ended up becoming one of the fastest guys in New Hampshire, ran up at a national level in college, and so in college, I really wanted to study peak performance in athletes. I wanted to study flow state. And so I ended up going to a school that would allow me to study essentially whatever I wanted. And I was studying brainwaves, peak performance, and the cross-cultural use of altered states of consciousness. And for me, that started with using it in order to achieve peak mental states, in order to achieve peak physical states, both in my training and my racing. So it was for my athletics. But then what happened was I was still struggling in college, and I was putting myself through college. And so I was footing the bill, and I had always struggled academically before because of ADD and bad memory and all the ADD problems and probably borderline dyslexia, And I said, well, if I can get my brain to focus completely for 60 to 90 minutes while I'm training, why can't I adapt those mental exercises? And I discovered self-hypnosis and the use of NLP for peak performance in college in my academic research. And I used myself as a guinea pig, of course. And early on was doing these little recordings on cassette tapes and all that kind of stuff and listening to them. And what ended up happening was I created some recordings and used some mental techniques to allow me to read a book, to allow me to read more than 3 pages at a time before my mind would start wandering and the words would start moving around on the page and I would get distracted and there goes my homework. And it worked. And I started getting straight A's for the first time in my life. And I was like, this is awesome. And so that led me on to study the spiritual aspects of altered states of consciousness. And I'll tell you, I wasn't studying the hallucinogenic types of altered states because I was interested in hypnosis and peak performance. I was studying how you could electrically or through mental exercises influence your brain and move into different states for those peak levels of performance. And what ended up happening was I ended up in college. I actually apprenticed with 3 different shamans from around the world and wrote academic anthropologic research papers on those experiences as part of my anthropology studies. And as I said, I ran nationally in college. And what ended up happening is at the end of my junior year, I still had a pretty bad relationship with my father. And his health got really bad, and he had a triple upper aortal aneurysm. And it's as bad as it sounds. You can look it up. I'm not going to get into all the gory details right now, but he basically ended up dying twice and being resuscitated, brought back to life twice in a few days. And he ended up getting put into a suspended chemical coma state because of all the drugs. He was very, very overweight. And of all the drugs that they had to pump into him, basically it made his body inflate. And that meant they couldn't sew him back together after they had to slice into his chest to do the operation. So he was in a suspended state, chemical coma, with his chest wide open, basically with a mesh over it because they couldn't sew him back together because his body was so swollen. And so I dropped out of school at the end of my junior year because he was divorced. And he had a house, he had a dental office, he had bank accounts, and all the things that happen with adulthood, right? Yeah. And I had to drop out to make an attempt at taking care of it. My sister was down in Florida, and I was here in Vermont, and he was in New Hampshire, and so I was the closest family member. And so I dropped out, but I knew that if I dropped out of college, there was no way I was possibly going to go back and finish it because I knew my distractibility, distracted self. And so I said, how can I keep studying what I've been researching in college while I'm not in college? And because I'm not much of a researcher, I read a lot now, but I wish I could just beam it into my brain and I could skip the reading, frankly. And thank God for podcasts and double, triple speed audios these days. And so what I did was I was looking in the newspaper in the town that I lived in for a part-time job that I could pick up and make a bunch of money that didn't involve a lot of commitment, but probably involved a lot of hard work. So I was looking for like a manual labor job that I could do to make some money in between visits to my dad in the hospital and stuff. And that's when I came across it. And what I came across was a tiny little classified ad for a hypnotherapy certification course in rural Vermont, in the next town over. And so I investigated, and sure enough, and this is the town that I live in now, Brattleboro. There was a Positive Changes Hypnosis Clinic, and the owner was named Sharon Austin, and Sharon was a certified trainer as well as having a weight loss clinic. And basically, I wrote her a check for my last $2,000. After I wrote her that check, I had less than $100 left in the bank account. And I was like, man, I can't write you this check in good conscience. I have no money. I've got nothing. You know, I was looking for another part-time job when I saw this ad. And I noticed that she had 3 part-time hypnotists working for her. And so I said, if I'm the best student you've ever had, will you hire me after I go through this course? Before I handed her the check. Before I even wrote, filled it out. And she was like, it's pretty ballsy ask, right? And she was like, well, if you're the best student I've ever had, and we get along well, and I need help, I'll consider it. I said, done. So I wrote her the check and started the 12-week class. We met once a week in a group down in her office, and there were, like a dozen of us or so. And what ended up happening was halfway through the course, we had to hypnotize the entire group. And I went to hypnotize the entire group. And they were all sitting in these lazy boy recliners in a semicircle, and I was in the middle. And hypnotized the entire group. And at the end of the hypnosis session, you do the callback. You bring everybody back to wide awake, alert consciousness. And after the relaxation part is over. And I go to do the callback, and nobody moves. Everybody in the room was totally silent. Some people were like quietly snoring. I was like, man, what? They didn't teach us what to do if nobody responds to your callback. So I did a little louder, got a little faster. Did still nothing on the second try. Finally, I started clapping my hands, jumping up and down, and got all fired up. And finally, they all started coming to, and there were 2 trainers. There was Sharon, and she had a colleague there that had an office in Massachusetts, and they both sat up, and it was like synchronized. They both sat up, they both opened their eyes, and they both said, do you want a job? At the same time. So I got 2 job offers literally at the same time as a result. And I was only in week number 7 of the training program. And that's how I became a hypnotist. Awesome. So I went to work for her for a year and 3/4 or so, did tons of weight loss. I wasn't very passionate about it, but because it's never been a personal issue for me. But I'll tell you what, it completely got me skilled, got me tons of experience, and I ended up breaking off and going off on my own after that because I didn't really want to follow all of the rules of the franchise. I wanted to do a lot more experimental stuff and whatever. And so, yeah, I went off my own, and then I was destitute for a while because I was getting paid. I started at $7.50 an hour, and by the time I was done, I was getting $12.50 an hour working for her, which was pretty darn good back in 2000, right?
Yeah.
For a 23-year-old.
Sure.
And but then when I went on my own, I didn't know anything about marketing. I had already failed at several business attempts, several bootstrap businesses that I was doing on the side in the meantime and everything else. And so I really struggled for a year and a half, 2 years just to get clients. I was a great hypnotist, but word of mouth takes time to build, especially in a small rural town. And there were no manuals, there were no books, there were no home study courses. There was basically no internet teaching hypnotists how to build successful local practices, especially on a shoestring budget.
Yes.
And so I just kind of had to figure it out. And eventually I invested in a home study.
Just real quick, I want to paint the picture on this. So you're when you say rural town, for those people that are out there in America, like how many people are in this town that you're in?
So I live in Brattleboro, Vermont. Right now, there are 12,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, so it's rural, but it's not that rural for Vermont.
Sure.
Right? It's not like we have a church and a post office and that's it.
Yeah.
Right? But we're small enough not to have a Starbucks. So
pretty small then.
Right? That's a pretty good indicator.
Yeah.
And all the surrounding towns are significantly smaller, right? Like all the surrounding towns are dirt road towns.
And there's just not, I mean, there's the marketing aspect on growing a business and all that stuff. And I knew some point you ended up in the Navy. I mean, when did that happen?
Okay. Navy story. This is good.
Yeah.
So this is interesting. I don't talk about this publicly very much, but I'll share it with you since you're a military guy. So
yeah.
Basically that was actually a big influencer. So what happened was I had a C- average out of high school. And as I said, I had major fallings out with both of my parents. And so essentially my dad told me, he was a dentist, but essentially he was like, dude, unless you shape up your act, shave off that mohawk, stop wearing crazy clothes, stop wearing the nose ring and the eyebrow ring, I'm not going to put you through college. Because he's a real conservative guy, and he was trying to raise me the best way he knew how, and I got the recessive genes. And so what happened was we were always in conflict, and he wasn't going to put me through college, but I was dependent. I was a legal dependent. And what happened was I actually joined the Navy after high school. And I joined the Navy after high school because a couple of friends of mine that were older than me had joined the Navy. And they said, dude, at very least you should go take the ASFAB, see how you score and see how they offer you. And for those of you that don't know, the ASFABs are like the military achievement test. And so I literally took the ASFABs in a kilt with a red and black mohawk. Okay. And so like it was a funny scene, it was like the fluorescent lights and the linoleum floor and the cinder block walls and all these like pretty straight-laced military style guys and me. Right. And, but I was also one of the fastest runners in the state. Right. So I was a great athlete.
So
and
you used to run with a mohawk?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I used to win with a mohawk. Yeah.
I used to win with a mohawk.
That's right. And so, so basically what happens is I scored in the top 1% on the ASFABs. And because there was no memorization involved. It was all like figuring stuff out and lots of practical physics related stuff. I didn't have to remember any names and dates. It was great. Spelling wasn't an issue because I think it was multiple choice for the most part. And I scored really, really, really well. And they wanted me to become a nuke, and I didn't want to spend all my time around radiation. I just didn't feel that was a good choice. I certainly didn't want to be responsible for building and launching bombs and missiles on people. And so I said, what else could I do? What would involve my brain? What would involve computers? What else, what else could I, because I always liked computers, And so I ended up becoming a sonar technician. And strangely enough, all my studies becoming a sonar technician actually led me to starting to study brainwaves, because sonar is sound waves, and it works exactly the same way as brainwaves in terms of all the math and how you influence them and all these types of things. So I joined the Navy, and while I was in the Navy in boot camp, something really crazy happened to me. So this is why I don't talk about this publicly too much, but the reality is I started seeing auras while I was in boot camp. I was standing at attention outside on the hot pavement for like 4 hours in our dress, in our wool dress blues, because they're just, it's just classic break them down, build them back up kind of stuff. And, like kids were dropping. The whole idea is like stand there until you pass out and like learn what that's like so you can deal with it when you're in an actual combat situation. And people were dropping like flies all around me. And I was standing there, I'm looking around, and everybody starts glowing. I'm like, what is going on here? And I figured that like I was dehydrated. I figured that I was stressed. I figured that this must be standard, who knows? And so everybody starts glowing. And how do you go and talk to your drill instructor about seeing auras in boot camp? What do you think about that?
You don't.
Yeah, not the easiest conversation to have. And so this kept on going on out at that was the first day. And then eventually we went and we got to go eat lunch, and drink some water, and the aura subsided. But then a few days later, down on the linoleum floor next to my bunk, and I look around and everybody's glowing again. And I'm like, what is going on? I thought I was going completely crazy. I thought I was going completely insane. And I couldn't talk to anybody about this. And so essentially I had kind of a metaphysical awakening while I was in boot camp. I've never done really well with rules. I've never done really well with structure. I've never done really well with regulations. So whether it was my brain fighting back against all the structure, or whether it was my age, or who knows what it was, but I was having this spiritual awakening, and I started getting really depressed about it. I started really second guessing myself. It really messed me up. It psychologically threw me completely for a loop. But I was signed up for 6 years. I got a massive sign-on bonus, and I didn't join the Navy in order to get kicked out. And I knew if I got kicked out, the best I could do with it was an other than honorable. And that sticks with you for life. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what do I do? And so eventually I graduated from boot camp. I went on to San Diego, started studying to be a sonar technician, and I just poured everything I had into my studies and my physical training, because I was able to actually run again. Because in boot camp, you can't really, running is kind of like minimal. I was able to do push-ups for the first time in my life, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, there you go.
But there wasn't a lot of running. And so in San Diego, I was able to start racing again and do some of that cool stuff as a civilian, But basically what happened is I got really, really, really messed up. I got really depressed. I got completely thrown for a loop. I was still seeing auras, thought I was going completely nuts. And long story short, I got discharged. And I don't know how I got discharged with an honorable discharge under the circumstances, but I got out of the Navy way early because my head was so messed up. And I started seeing auras and all this stuff. And I just told them. I told them verbatim exactly what happened. And after a bunch of testing and all this other stuff, eventually they discharged me with an honorable discharge. And the interesting thing, though, was when you're discharged with an honorable discharge, that makes you a veteran. Mm-hmm. And so I was still 19 years old, but I was a veteran. And because I was a veteran, that made me legally independent. And because I was legally independent, that means I could go to college without them looking at my dad's financials, which means I was able to put myself through college without relying on him. And that's how I ended up in college.
Wow.
So it's this crazy sequence of events that ended up, and so in college, especially after that whole metaphysical spiritual thing, I said, I'm going to start studying perception, start figuring out what the heck happened to me, because eventually the aura stuff wore off. After I was out of the super stressful environment and whatever, I stopped seeing auras. And so that was a major driver for my research and studies especially on the spiritual side of things while I was in college, was my personal experience having kind of that spiritual awakening. And strangely enough, the Navy is what brought it on. So there you go, Daryl. I don't think I've ever shared that one with you.
Man, that's some groundbreaking stuff right there. I've never heard of that before. That is very unique. And tell me, that kind of brings us to kind of where we're at now, is like here you are, you went through this journey and you had all these things that were happening that kept bringing you back to what you're really truly gifted is your mind is designed to really help other people, and that's where your wiring works. And it's very, very, you and I kind of are similar in that nature, and we're able to kind of see things other people can't see, the patterns, and help people overcome everything. In your example, right? Overcomeeverything.com, guys. You can go on there and read further about Tellman, and share us about how did you get involved in the marketing side of things, and now how did you create a business out of that? Because there's so many people that are out there that are trying to create a business around what they're passionate about, trying to grow a list, an email list? Like, what are some of the tips and tricks that you were able to put into place for doing that now?
Yeah. So let's get practical, right? So basically what happened was I had been doing hypnosis locally in rural Vermont. And I bought this course, this home study course on how to build a successful chiropractic business, because I couldn't find one on how to build a successful hypnosis business. And it involved direct response marketing. So this is pre-internet, but it's the foundation. The core principles are all the same. I'll totally give you guys super cool internet tactics that work today too, but you have to understand the underlying piece. So I wanted to have a hypnosis business that was based on what I was studying and researching and passionate about in college. And so that's why I started doing this. And what ended up happening was the way that I built a successful hypnotherapy practice in rural Vermont was I had to decentralize. And so I started with one office that I rented, and I was lucky if I had one client a day. Okay. And so there were two things that I did that made all the difference in the world. The first thing is I went to where the customers were. Okay. So I said, well, what would happen if I shared some of my revenue and I put myself in front of the perfect customers? And the perfect customers, for the most part, were weight loss clients, because they were in extreme pain and they were willing to try anything. And I was doing hypnosis, which, let's face it, everybody thinks it's weird. Okay. It's less so these days. It's 20 years later. People are more cool with it now. But most people's knee-jerk reaction to hypnosis is weird. Right?
What would you say your definition of hypnosis is?
Well, I believe that hypnosis is the state between being awake and asleep. Okay. It's called the hypnagogic state. And it's the same state as meditation. It's the same state as prayer. Okay. When you pray or when you meditate, your brain is going into that somewhat aware, but somewhat not state. You're going internal. You're not paying as much attention to the external world, and you're able to go into your subconscious mind. And what a hypnotist does is a hypnotist guides someone into that space and then gives them suggestions, because in that state, you're able to learn much, much, much more quickly than we can when we're operating in a conscious world. And that's why children learn so much more quickly than adults, right? Is because they haven't developed all the conscious filters and they haven't started second guessing everything. That's why kids can learn so many languages so quickly, before they're 8, if you give them the opportunity. And so hypnosis, to me, is like modern Western meditation, meaning it's practical meditation. Not that meditation in and of itself isn't practical. There is a great deal of wonderful benefits of meditation, and I recommend that everyone do it. However, hypnosis is used to do things like quit smoking, to lose weight, to knock your insomnia out, to stop biting your fingernails incessantly, to overcome irrational fears and phobias like fear of heights and fear of spiders and fear of public speaking. It's used to instill self-confidence. It's used to instill the belief that you can be something different than you've been in the past. And when you do that successfully, you start thinking, acting, feeling, behaving. And so I specialize these days in wealth hypnosis, which is very similar to what you've been working on a lot lately. Money mindset, overcome money blocks. And what I help people to do is to start thinking, acting, and behaving like the wealthiest possible version of themselves, right? And there's no difference between you and a millionaire version of you, except it's the same brain, same IQ, same cells, different neural pathways. And so we use hypnosis in order to rapidly create those neural pathways that would otherwise take years or even decades of intense focus, willpower, and practice to create. You can cut the learning curve down to almost nothing with hypnosis. So that's my kind of Tellman definition of hypnosis.
No, absolutely. And you explained it quite logically. I love the part where we talked about the neuroscience side of things. I equate that a lot of times. I use an example like the Mississippi River. It's like it's so strong and people are trying to put up a dam. They just, I'm going to sign up for a gym membership, or I'm going to, quit smoking. And they try these things they've been doing for years and years and years. and all of a sudden they put up a dam and it works for about 2 seconds, and then
it goes over the dam.
Water goes over the dam. It's a big mess, right? And creating those new neural pathways is equivalent to creating a canal that runs next to that river, and you're just diverting the river over into a different. You just give it a clearer path to run on.
Yeah, or bring that energy into a different direction, right?
Yeah, exactly
bring
right.
that momentum into a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
I like to say you can't get rid of bad habits. You can only create better ones.
Better ones, yep.
Right? You can't just stop doing something unless you start doing something that's more effective and efficient than your old behavior. Otherwise, you'll just go back to your old crappy behavior, right? So basically, what I ended up doing is I built, I had my main office, and I built 5 satellite offices. And I had one at a dental office. I had one at a Curves for Women. I had one at a diet center, where they did like meal plans and food supplements and that kind of, not Weight Watchers, but kind of like the Weight Watchers outlet a little bit. I had one at a alternative healthcare center, an acupuncture clinic. And so and some of them didn't work, and I had to start new ones. But essentially, I had 6 offices, 6 days a week. And what I did is I paid a third of everything that I owned, or a third of everything that I made within the walls of that office to the office owner. So what they did is they gave me space for free 1 day a week. And I offered all their clients a free hypnosis session. And what that did is it got me hypnotizing people, and it gave me a chance to pitch them on a series of hypnosis sessions and to show them how good I was, and then to sell them. And so that's how I got busy, right? Another thing that I did that was so that's a lot like doing a joint venture, right? It's a lot like doing a joint venture, finding someone else with the customers and giving them a percentage of what you're selling, like an affiliate program. I didn't have that terminology back then to use, but that's what it is. The other thing that I did that was cool, that's very similar to building an email list, which is how I've actually made all my money, is I started placing classified ads. And so I placed classified ads in the paper for the National Quit Smoking Hotline. Call 1-800-whatever for your free special report, okay? And they pick up the phone and they call a 1-800 number, and I hooked it up to a service that I think still exists called Pat Live. Pat Live was funny because whenever you'd call them for customer support, they'd always say, "Hey, this is Pat," and it wouldn't matter who answered, male or female.
I've seen that service; it works.
Yeah, and so so what happened is I recorded a voicemail, and it said, "Hi, this is the National Quit Smoking Hotline, and we're ready to rush you your special report on the top 10 ways in America to quit smoking today. Go ahead and leave your full name, mailing address, and phone number if you want immediate callback and need immediate assistance." And Pat Live would also pick up the phone number for caller ID. And so what happened was I run these ads in newspapers, and I started locally because I was only working with local clients. So I newspapers and like throwaway newspapers and the weekly newspapers, within an hour-long drive, I figured that was the maximum someone was going to drive to see me. I'd place all these ads in the newspapers, and they all had special individual phone numbers so I could track the calls and where they came from and my ad spend and all that stuff. People would call in, they'd leave messages, and I would actually get an email every day with the transcriptions of all the messages and the caller IDs of all the phone numbers. And so I would then proceed to print off from my printer in my apartment the 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper that I did up in PageMaker back in the day. And then I would staple them with one of those extra long staplers so I could fold it over into a booklet. And then I would slip that into one of those, I think it's a number 5 envelope, maybe. And I'd send it off. And of course, it listed the top 10 ways to quit smoking in America. And what was the best way? Hypnosis, right? No side effects. And then it would offer them a free hypnosis session with me. And it would offer them a free hypnosis session with me if they responded by a date that I had to hand write in each one of these things, right? Wow. And that was 2 weeks out. And so, and then I would stick them in the envelopes. I would lick the envelopes with my tongue. I still have the taste, I think, 20 years later on my tongue. It was terrible. Ooh. And send those out. And then I'd spend all of the rest of my non-hypnotizing hours calling those people back, asking them if they wanted my assistance or help or if they had any questions. And when they found out that the National Quit Smoking Hotline was in their hometown,
they're excited about that, I bet.
That was the whole idea. And so then they come in for free hypnosis sessions. And so that was my beginning experience into direct response marketing and filling up my practice with clients by doing free hypnosis sessions and then pitching a series of sessions, a package of sessions at the end. And, you know, I would tell people when they came in, listen, I charge a bare minimum of $75 a session, right? And you're going to have an introductory session today. You're going to get to experience hypnosis. You'll be able to decide whether or not you like me and whether or not hypnosis is something that you want to invest in order to help solve your problem with X. And I had a weight loss one. I had a smoking one. I tried an ADD one because I really wanted that to work. Never could make the numbers work on the ADD one. Had a stress one. I had an insomnia one. So I had all these special reports. I was trying to run all these ads and do all this stuff. As a one-man show, plus my now wife, you know, who was managing the local coffee shop, helped me out, you know, whenever she could to send out reports. But there was a problem with that business, which was repetitive work, which I'm terrible at. Doing the same thing over and over a million times, I suck at that. And so the special report side of the business fell apart because I got tired of fulfilling on the stupid special reports. But when I set up all those all the satellite practices, that was just clients that would come to me. They'd just show up. They'd fill out I had a clipboard, and it had so many free session spots that were available because I was only in there one day a week. There were 10 spots. And when the free sessions were filled up, they were filled up, you know, and everybody at the front desk was always trained to offer free sessions to every client for the dental office or for the weight loss center or whatever. So that was the beginning of my marketing experience. And that's how I finally started making some money. And then I got tired of doing one-on-one sessions because I did the math and I realized it was going to take me until I was 50 years old to pay off my college loans. I'm like, this is not going to work.
That's a long time.
This is not going to work. And I can't charge $500 a session in rural Vermont. So I was like, what am I going to do? I bet I could sell hypnosis CDs on the internet. And so I started studying internet marketing. And the first product that I ever built or that I ever bought was an ebook. I think I bought it 4 times because I kept on losing the PDF or whatever. Mining Gold on the Internet by Sean Casey.
Oh, Sean Casey.
On the internet.
That's
and that ebook was all about how to make money, selling stuff about how to make money. And I couldn't figure out I just couldn't do it. I tried writing a sales letter. I created a product called the 5 Keys to Permanent Fat Loss, 2 CD series I created with my buddy Kyle Battis. I think we sold 30 copies of that total, you know, and awesome program. Just couldn't, it was my first attempt at a sales letter. Didn't work. And eventually I realized that the common denominator, the thing that made all the difference was whether or not I had built an email list. And email lists. And back in the day, it was like Sean Casey and Jonathan Mizell and Corey Rudel, right? And Mark Joyner. And Mark and Sean both ended up becoming enormous positive influences and mentors to me. And what ended up happening was I realized that I needed to build a list, but I still didn't have enough money to drop $2,000 on like a coaching program or a training course. I was just barely paying the bills still, even though I was super busy. And so what ended up happening was I started an interview series on list building, and it was called List Crusade. And I interviewed over 80 people. Keep in mind, I wasn't married yet. I did live with my girlfriend, but I wasn't married yet, and I didn't have kids yet. I had time, and I had energy, and I was going to use it. And so it was basically like doing a podcast back in the day, but it was before podcasts were a thing. And so I interviewed all these people, and I implemented what they told me because I forced them to give me at least one specific list building strategy to build my email list. And then I ended up reporting the results back in a few weeks later as part of the interview series and putting it out there to my list. That year was the year when I had the idea to do this thing online and got it going. I decided, I was 27 years old, and I decided I was going to make $1 million that year online. That was my goal. I was like, I'm tired. I'm going to set a giant goal. I'm tired of screwing around. I don't have any time to waste. $1 million, I'm going to do this. And I remember on my birthday, my 27th birthday, I was at Metropolis. It was a bar downtown. I announced it to about 20 of my friends. I said, guys, next year I'm buying you drinks and I'll take you all out to the nicest restaurant around. Mark my words, I'm making $1 million this year. I said, I declared it publicly, and I wasn't even like all that messed up. And everybody laughed. And then somebody bought my drink, because I could just barely rub 2 dimes together, whatever. And what happened was really amazing. What happened was I made $800,000. I made $800,000. I did $800,000 in sales. I sucked at writing long copy. I was really good at writing creative emails, and I was really good at interviewing people, but I sucked at writing long copy. I couldn't sell my own stuff to save my life. But what I did was I got 7 or 6 other guys to all agree to work on percentage for me. And one of them is still around in the marketing community. Is Joe Lavery. And if you probably know Joe, if you know Matt, right? Mm-hmm. And I convinced, we were all trying to make the internet stuff work, but none of us were doing it. We were all part-timers trying to figure it out. And I convinced 6 other guys other than myself to each earn 10% on the project. And they all had skills that I didn't have, right? And Joe is actually a marketing genius, and he was a marketing genius then too. He had the brain for it. He just didn't have nearly as much knowledge, but he had a heck of a lot more knowledge than I did. Mm-hmm. And so I couldn't sell my stuff very well. And so we did it through affiliate marketing. And I spent $2,000 on the very first teleseminar secrets that Alex Mandossian ever launched. And when I did that, I literally went from $10,000 other people's expensive stuff as an affiliate. And that was my marketing training. I wasn't trying to become a marketing guru. I was trying to learn how to become good at marketing so I could sell my hypnosis stuff, because I had a real business that I wanted to start that was based on my passions. But I knew I needed to develop a skill, i.e. internet or email marketing, in order to pull it off. So I focused on training in the skill that I needed to develop in order to build the business that I wanted to build. And where I already had credibility, where I already had skill, where I already had the ability to do something of quality, which is a hypnotist. And long story short, I got really, really, really good at list building. I got really, really, really good at email marketing. And every time I tried to sell hypnosis stuff, it sold like 1/10 as much as marketing stuff. And so for 7 years, I did Tellman as an internet marketer. I was the list building guy, built a list of 500,000 people, built a multi-million-dollar company with 35 employees around the world, and employees and full-time contractors. And what I would do is I would create hypnosis sessions to hypnotize all my students to become better internet entrepreneurs. And so I was still doing hypnosis, but I was selling it under the guise of marketing training. And I would give them marketing training, but then I would give them the mindset stuff that they needed in order to take things to the next level. Awesome. And so I did that for about 7 years.
You find that's the case, Tellman, with most people? The reason they're not having the success they want. I mean, there's so many people out there who bought course after course after course, but they're just not getting the results they're looking for. Do you find it really just comes down to mindset?
Well, I mean, what else would it be? I mean, everything is happening in between your ears.
Yeah.
I mean, the internet is the great equalizer. Anybody can start an internet business for $100 a month between hosting and autoresponder and like, you don't even need to do paid traffic. You can do organic traffic. I think that most people aren't committed enough. I think that they aren't committed enough. And because they're not committed enough, they set dinky goals. They set little teeny tiny goals that it doesn't matter whether or not they ever hit them. And if you have goals that are insignificant, that are not going to significantly change your life, then why would you significantly change how you back to your Mississippi River? Why would you dig? Like, it is a lot of work to dig a flipping canal.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what you need to do in order to be successful. If you want to be a successful entrepreneur, and I say bare minimum success is $1 million a year. Everything else is just a job. Okay. If you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you need to act like an Olympic athlete. Okay. You need to act like you're going for a gold medal and that you're putting 6-8 hours of intensive training in every day for years. And it doesn't matter how long it takes for you to hit it. That's not the point. The point is you're going to hit it. You're going to do it. And if you're trying to just like get into the make money online game because you think it might be easy, you're totally screwing yourself. There's no way you're ever going to be successful. You need to have something that means more to you. There has to be a bigger driving force. And for me, that was hypnosis. Like, that was a life changer, you know? And
so tell me, how do you set your goals right now?
I was committed. I decided to become a hypnotist.
How do you go about setting your goals right now to achieve? Because I know you've got some big goals and you've been working on some pretty amazing projects. What are some of the ways you set your goals right now? So somebody's out there wondering about, like, how do I get better at setting goals?
Well, you have to be in alignment with yourself. So you have to believe that it's possible for you to achieve it, but it should make you nervous as hell. And that's a sweet spot, and that's different for everyone. And I mean, my first year, I wanted to make $1 million, online. I had never set that goal that big before, but then as a result, I had never achieved something anywhere close to that big before either. There's something to be said for smaller, more achievable goals. And I realized that my brain isn't wired like everybody else's, but all I can tell you is how I do it. And I clients and customers just on the entrepreneur side learning marketing. And I can tell you that every single wildly successful person that I know sets giant goals that are significantly outside of their reach that they do not know how they're going to accomplish when they set that goal. And most people aren't willing to set a goal that's outside. If you want to take things to the next level, you have to do things presumably totally different than you've done them in the past. That means you're going to be working with new people. It means you're going to go through the long, hard, arduous process of learning new skills that make you uncomfortable and make you feel stupid. They make you feel insignificant. And if you have a problem feeling stupid and insignificant and like you suck, you're never going to succeed. You need to get over yourself and be willing to be the stupidest guy or gal in the room. You need to go back to square one and realize that unless you step up your game and transform and become somebody totally different, you're never going to change your life. That's been my experience.
So what's one of the biggest goals you're working on right now?
Let me see. Well, right now, you're involved with one of the biggest goals that I'm working on right now. It's called the platform. We just launched this thing, just got it live. I decided after doing the internet marketing stuff for 14 years, I was like, what if I stopped focusing on just selling all my own stuff? And I started putting my marketing knowledge and expertise into a platform to allow other hypnotists to make it really easy to get the word out for their stuff, to take most of the marketing and most of the technology away and to build a platform to make it much easier to give other hypnotists to leverage. And so we created something called the Overcome Everything platform. And you're one of the 20 founding fathers of the platform. So far, I've only allowed 20 hypnotists in who are rock stars and 20 folks in who are really good at this. And at mostly hypnosis. Not everybody calls their stuff hypnosis, but most of it's pretty much hypnosis. And my goal for that is, I have two goals, right? Goal number one is that before the end of the year, I want to get up to 1,000 hypnotists on the platform. But a subset of that goal is I want to get 100 hypnotists, each making 10 grand a month on the platform at least. Okay. So if we're doing 100 hypnotists doing 10 grand a month, that's $1 million a month on the platform. And that will have successfully transformed the hypnosis industry completely. So that's my goal, is to take my last 14 years of experience and fill out this platform and help hypnotists specialize, raise their prices, start making what they're actually worth instead of selling their time, start selling their expertise and the solutions that they're offering. And to get them up to 10,000, and then obviously some of them are already making way more than $10,000 a month online. Victoria Gallagher, Steve Jones, are already making significantly more than that online. But what I want to do is get 100 hypnotists up to 10 grand and beyond, and get the platform making $1 million a month in consistent revenue. And I'm hoping to do that by the end of the year. That's my deadline goal, but it doesn't matter how long it takes. That's what I'm going to do. I want to get it up there before the end of the year if possible.
That's awesome.
That's a pretty big one.
Yeah, and you guys, that's how you go after it. I mean, he doesn't know all the details and all the people, and like that comes is you got to put that goal out there to the universe and tell everybody this is what I'm doing. Just like Tellman said, when he didn't have 2 nickels to rub together and buy a beer, that he was going to go out and make $1 million. But yeah, at the end of the year, he was the one laughing at having $800,000 worth of hypnosis sales that year. So congratulations, man. I look forward to be part of the team.
Awesome.
So what's the best way
big
for people to get a hold of you, Tellman, as far as to learn more about you, learn more about the platform? Like what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, just go to overcomeeverything.com, get on my email list. You can find me on Facebook. You can reach out to me there too, and that's it. It's real simple. Overcomeeverything.com. That's the place to go. And if you're a hypnotist and you want to get involved with the platform, and you're a hungry hypnotist, we have some very strict requirements about the types of hypnotists that we let in. They have to be motivated. They have to be excited. They have to not be burnt out or lame. No lame hypnotists. If you're a lame hypnotist, count yourself out. And yeah, that's it. The one big thing I just want to share with you guys is that there's your business and there's the skills you need to develop in order to have a successful business. And they're not the same thing. And people get really confused. Okay. If you want a successful business, you have to start with a great product or service, and then learn how to market your great product or service incredibly well in a way that works for you and your personality and or the personality of your staff and team. And that means constant development of new skills, and that will never end. That's a constantly changing. Any good entrepreneur, any good marketer is constantly evolving and constantly changing, constantly learning new things. So don't get into affiliate marketing. I'm going to punch the next person that says that they're into affiliate marketing. There's no such thing as affiliate marketing. Affiliate marketing is one way to market your business. What's your business? What's your business? What are you selling? You selling toothbrushes? Great. You selling Wolverine action figures on eBay? Awesome. You selling, I don't know, what else do I have around here? Headsets? Great. Headsets.com. Sell the best damn headsets in the world. Get good at marketing them. But don't sell how to make money stuff to how to make money people when you don't even know how to make money. It's dumb. You're just wasting your life. Do something that matters. Do something that means something to you. Please, for the love of God, don't be an idiot. Sorry, a little rant there.
No, that's no problem. I was actually just talking to somebody last night. I see this a lot of times with so many coaches out there and people that are selling stuff on stuff that they have just no business selling stuff on.
That's the thing. You can't be convincing.
No.
You can't add value if you're full of crap. Yeah. But the thing is, you have an entire life of experience. If you're in info marketing, if info marketing is your business model, that's good, but it's not your business. It's your business model. It's the skeleton. It's the framework. It's the structure. You're going to build an email list, right? A giant email list around a specific niche or problem. You're going to connect with those people. So look, I talk to hypnotists about this all the time. You can make $1 million a year just focusing on fear of spiders. Okay? If you're the arachnophobia guy, if you're the arachnophobia girl, and all of your marketing is focused on helping people overcome fear of spiders, and you and you write books about overcoming fears of spiders, and you do interviews of people who've overcome their fear of spiders, and you get on other podcast interviews and you talk about how to overcome fear of spiders, and you have a front-end hypnosis session or hypnosis program on overcoming fear of spiders, and you have a system, the Overcome Arachnophobia system, and you sell that for $200, $300, and then you have the Overcome Arachnophobia coaching program. There's no good reason why you can't make 7 figures just focused on, and I'm not saying that fear of spiders is the thing, guys. It's the example.
Well, there's people out there afraid of spiders, though. I've helped them.
There's a crap load of people afraid of spiders.
Yeah, there are.
Everything else imaginable. Maybe nail biting is your thing.
Yeah.
But you know, if you know how to, like, I have a good friend. His name is Pete Welch, and Pete Welch is a stonemason, and he works on my house and he works on my brick wall, and he's been doing stonemasonry for 20 years. Okay, he's about my age, and guess what? He's getting tired of the wear and tear on his body, but he's the best stonemason around. So what he did is he became president of the Vermont Stone Trust, and now he's helping other people that specialize in building dry laid stone wall to build amazing businesses. And he's creating info products and coaching programs to help people have wildly successful stone wall businesses. Okay? So that's what I'm talking about. Use your skills, use your knowledge, use your experience, use your passion. You know, my first business was a salsa company. Why? Because I love the hot stuff. And I have some salsa recipes that will blow your brains out.
I think I've seen the picture of that.
Yeah. And it was my first business. It ultimately failed after 5.5 years because I wasn't serious about marketing at the time. I started when I was 19. And what I want you guys to just realize is that your business, like, it started with some great recipes and started with salsa that made people be like, oh my gosh, I want more of this. So create a product or create a service that's great, but don't let that get in the way of you starting to do good marketing right along with it. You don't have to have the best product or service in the world in order to have excellent marketing. So you need both. You need both. And it's really important that you realize that.
Absolutely. Well, Tellman, I appreciate you guys coming out today and sharing everything and sharing what you did today, Tellman, at overcomeeverything.com. And what's the URL for the hypnosis platform going to be?
Yeah. So right now there's not even a link on Overcome Everything to the platform, which I need to correct immediately. Mm-hmm. So if you guys want to check out the platform and see some of Daryl's work on the platform, just go to platform.overcomeeverything.com. It's a subdomain. So platform.overcomeeverything.com. And
amazing people on there. And I was like, wow, blown away to be, first of all, selected to work with you, Tellman. You're somebody I look up to as a mentor. And there's just amazing people in the group and been sharing things. So I'm looking forward to being one of those 100 people doing $10,000 plus a month. Boom. So
let's do it, man. I mean, let's just focus on it and bang it out. You know, yep. I would absolutely love to see that happen.
Absolutely. All right, Tellman, thanks a lot so much for coming on. And guys, overcomeeverything.com and overcome everything. Is it hypnosis?
Platform. platform.overcomeeverything.com. I know it's a little bit of a mouthful.
Yeah, that's my dyslexia kicking in. I'm trying to go backwards with it.
It's all right. Here, you know what? We'll just do a little of this. Platform.overcomeeverything.com.
Platform.overcomeeverything.com. So if you guys want to learn more about the platform and see some of the best hypnotists in the world, feel free to jump on there, guys.
Awesome. Well, Daryl, thanks. This has been great.
Thanks, Tellman. I appreciate you.